Okay, good evening, everyone. We will call our June 2nd regular City Council meeting to order. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum present?
Yes, Mayor, we do.
All right, awesome. So what is first on our agenda for this evening?
Item 2, invocation given by Mr. Stephen Downs here, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the American and Texas flag.
Okay, good.
Our Heavenly Father, we come before Thee in prayer tonight, grateful for this opportunity to gather as a community to celebrate first just life and this opportunity to live in this wonderful community and to be able to make decisions that impact our future and the future of those that live here. We're also able to honor tonight some individuals who've achieved some outstanding milestones and achievements in their different pursuits of scouting and sports. We're grateful for the way that they represent our community both here and in some cases throughout the state. Please continue to bless them and their teammates and their families as they continue to represent us. Grateful for the way that they do it. Please bless us tonight as decisions are made, that the goodness of the council will show through in their decisions as they continue to be mindful of all of the needs of the residents and trying to balance all of those various needs and making the decisions that's best for this community. We're grateful to be a part of it. We're grateful to live here, grateful to be in this safe place. Please bless those employees that work endlessly and tirelessly to keep this community safe, to keep it functioning, and to keep it the type of place that we continue to choose to call home. We ask for these blessings tonight. Do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
What's our next item, please?
Item 3A, Luke Stacy, Eagle Scout Proclamation.
All right. This is what makes this job really fun, getting to read these. And I know I speak for the rest of the council when I say that it's an honor to be up here, and especially tonight seeing young people and what they're doing in our community. So without further ado, here's for Mr. Luke Stacy. Whereas the rank of Eagle Scout is the highest honor awarded by the Boy Scouts of America and is a distinction earned by only a small percentage of scouts who demonstrate extraordinary leadership, service, and commitment to community. And whereas Luke Stacy, a Fate resident and a dedicated member of Troop 163 in Fate, Texas, under the leadership of Scoutmaster Russell Roberts, has fulfilled all of the rigorous requirements to attain this esteemed rank. And whereas for his Eagle Scout service project, Luke chose to make a meaningful and lasting impact by creating and distributing suicide prevention ribbons for the Roy City American Legion, raising awareness during the month of September, National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and promoting mental health support within the community. And whereas Luke's efforts exemplify the values of service, compassion, and leadership, and serve as an inspiration to his peers and all who value civic responsibility, and whereas Luke Stacy successfully completed his Eagle Scout Board of Review on May 15th, 2025, making the culmination of years of dedication, personal growth, and community involvement. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Greenberg, Mayor of the City of Fate, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the 3rd day of June 2025 as Luke Stacy Day in the City of Fate in recognition of his achievement, and ask our citizens to commend Luke for having made a significant contribution to his community and developing leadership and organization skills that lay the foundation for a lifetime of active citizenship. Well done. All right, next item, please.
Item 3B, Abby Walker Proclamation.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're excited for this one, too. Whereas Abby Walker, a freshman at Pioneer Technology and Arts Academy in Fate, Texas, has demonstrated exceptional athletic ability, dedication, and perseverance in the sport of track and field. And whereas through her hard work and determination, Abby earned the distinguished honor of qualifying for the University Interscholastic League State Track and Field Championships in the 800-meter event, Division IIA. And whereas on May 3rd, 2025, Abby proudly represented PTAA Fate and the entire community in Austin, Texas, where she finished in an impressive third place, earning a bronze medal in her event. And whereas Abby Walker has made history as the first ever athlete from PTAA Fate to qualify for the UIL State Championships, setting a proud and inspiring precedent for future student athletes at her school. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Greenberg, Mayor of the City of Fate, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the 4th day of June 2025 as Abby Walker Day in the City of Fate in recognition of her outstanding athletic achievement, her trailblazing spirit, and her role as a source of pride and inspiration to her school and our entire community. Well done.
Yep, we'll just have you stand in the middle, please.
Cody said she wants to race you.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Awesome, thank you.
You want your crew up here for some pictures? Crew walk up and take some pictures?
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Awesome, thank you. Congratulations.
That's what I was curious. I know. I guess so. You. Well, there goes half the room.
I know, I was going to just be Matt's wife.
Yeah.
Okay, what's our next item, please?
Item 3C, Open Government Training given by Ms. Jennifer Ritchie.
Okay.
Mayor and council, if it's all right with you, I'm going to sit here to do that training. If you prefer, I'm more than happy to stand up at the podium, whichever you prefer.
You're good where you are.
Okay, great. Oh, do I need to do that? Oh, okay. Right there. There you go. Great. Well, thank you very much, and I'm going to try to go through this quickly, but it's obviously very important, and I know that y'all feel that way, and feel free to ask any questions as we go. So tonight I'm going to go through the Texas Open Meetings Act, and I'm going to refer to that as TOMA. the Texas Public Information Act, some of the Texas Ethics and Conflicts rules, and of course, FADE has some local rules that I will also cover. So first, the Texas Open Meetings Act. It was adopted in 1967, and it's been revised almost every legislative session since then, and in fact, we have some revisions that are probably going to be signed by the governor very soon. The requirements under TOMA are mandatory for every governmental body except the legislature, which is kind of ironic. It provides that the public has a statutory right to observe government in action and a right to observe your deliberations and votes, and the right to speak before any action is taken on a matter. So the new council members and the mayor should have watched an open meetings video and filled out a certificate of completion. And so this is meant to supplement that and to allow y'all to ask questions. But in general, the Open Meetings Act requires that meetings be open to the public, and I'll briefly go over executive sessions, which are the closed sessions. It requires that agendas of your meetings be posted 72 hours in advance on a bulletin board and the internet, and you must give the public sufficient notice of what's being discussed. Now, I'm gonna stop right here because I believe that the governor probably is going to sign a change to TOMA, which requires a 3 business day advance posting of the meetings. It hasn't been signed yet, but there's no reason to believe he won't sign it. And so that may change some of our timing. Again, it must give the notice to the public of what's being discussed. Am I going too fast?
Oh, no.
Oh.
I was transmitting to the acting city secretary that it's going to put us 1 day faster on our
One day faster just on agenda items and then getting out the agendas to y'all on Wednesday instead of Thursday.
Yep.
You must give the public sufficient notice of what's being discussed, and so staff is constantly trying to walk that line well between being specific enough so that the public understands what you're discussing, but being general enough so I don't have to say we're off topic and we're outside the posted agenda item. The rule of thumb in the case law says that the more important the item is, the more specific your posting needs to be. So you'll see things like, if we are having an eminent domain item, for instance, that will be very specifically posted. So TOMA has 2 definitions of meeting. The first definition is deliberation between a quorum of the governmental body or a quorum of the governmental body and another person during which public business or public policy is being discussed. This can either be a meeting which you participate in or which you're responsible for. So there can be TOMA problems even for gatherings that are not meetings that you think of as being traditional meetings. And the second definition of meeting is listed here, and the law does say that it doesn't include a gathering of the quorum at a social function unrelated to public business that is conducted by the governing body or attendance by a quorum at a function conducted by a third party if formal action is not taken in any discussion of public business is incidental to the event. So I'll give you an example. If one of you has a holiday party and invites the whole council to the holiday party, you certainly can talk about your holiday plans, your grandchildren, what you bought your wife for Christmas, but you shouldn't be talking in a quorum about public business of the city of Fate. And so sometimes when people are being extra careful, they also try not to appear like they're talking about those things in a quorum. So the Open Meetings Act applies to the council. It also applies to a board or commission that makes recommendations to councils that are usually approved by the council. So most cities, and Fate does this, and this would be my recommendation, and y'all did this before I was even your city attorney, has the Open Meetings Act apply to all your boards. Because you don't want to be in the situation where somebody's later arguing you can't adopt what that board recommended because they didn't comply with the Open Meetings Act. And so that is the smartest rule, and that is the rule that Fate has. It applies when a quorum, again, of your members is present, and of course for us it's 4. You cannot discuss public business outside of a posted meeting. You also need to be careful with emails and other media in which you accidentally create a quorum. And so my advice to staff, and I think Fate staff's really good about doing this, is when one of us emails you like with a let's say a calendaring issue, we will blind copy the council so that y'all don't accidentally reply all and create a open meetings problem. Again, be careful about discussing city business outside of a posted meeting. And a quorum can be established in a series of communications, and the next slide will cover this more in detail. And it also prevents you from discussing in your meetings items that are not posted on the agenda. And so I know it's awkward for councils when you'll have the public speaking portion that's going to come up next. People come up and they speak about things that are not on the agenda. And sometimes if the citizen doesn't understand the rule, they'll even ask you questions. And I'll give you an example for tonight. Let's say if somebody was talking about stray animals. That's nowhere on the agenda tonight. And so somebody might get up and start talking about stray animals. They might even say, and council, what do you think? And you have to sit there with a stone look on your face, which is awkward because it's not the way any of us act outside of a public meeting. But the law is that y'all can't talk about things that are not on the agenda. And so, you know, either I can point that out to the resident or the mayor can point that out to the resident. And certainly that can be a future agenda item if the council so chooses. So I mentioned a walking quorum. So this is a concept, and you'll hear, especially if you go to TML training, you'll hear people talk about this. But a walking quorum, and I'm going to give you a very large city in Texas kind of had the actions that caused this law. So a very large city in Texas, this is years ago, had a series of meetings on a Sunday night in which groups smaller than a quorum discussed something that was going to be on the next day's agenda, and through a series of meetings basically came to a decision about a funding request. And at the next day's posted meeting, that funding request came up, and this, without any discussion, the city voted regarding the funding to that nonprofit. And so the law has been for many, many years that you can violate the Open Meetings Act if you have a walking quorum, if you set up a situation where a series of groups smaller than a quorum come to a decision outside the posted meeting. Litigation a couple years ago found the old provision to be unconstitutional. The legislature found this provision to be so important that they amended it, and the current law has not been interpreted by the courts or by the Texas Attorney General. But it in general provides an elected or appointed official cannot communicate with other members of the governing body to persuade them on an issue if they communicate individually with the quorum or know that the others will do such communication. So a good example of that is, you know, you wouldn't want to say something like, I've talked to A, B, C, and D, and they all agree, and telling somebody, you wouldn't want to do that. New technologies raise novel issues, and all of us struggle with these daily. So social media can raise issues where you can accidentally be talking about public business in a quorum. I'm going to skip over a couple slides, but they're in your packet. So emergency postings are an exception to the 72-hour posting, but we will walk y'all through those if we get in that situation. I mentioned executive session. This is the exception for when you can go back into a closed session and discuss city business. So the common examples, there are others, are attorney consultation, discussing real property transactions, economic development, and personnel matters. And if you think about these, all of these have one thing in common, which is there are certain things that if you were to talk about them in public, really put a city at a disadvantage. And so a good example is for the attorney consultation. To give good legal advice, sometimes I need to do it in a private setting. And another example is for real property, you shouldn't have to talk about what you're authorizing Michael to offer somebody on a property purchase, and then they know, oh, the city will go up to $100,000, right? You should be able to talk about that in private so you can maintain that negotiation and get the best price for the taxpayers. And all of these have that in there. No votes can take place in executive session, and it should go without saying, but sometimes we have to remind cities of this, that if you're going under attorney-client privilege and the attorney giving the advice must be present or on the phone. There are criminal penalties for violation of the Open Meetings Act. There are also civil remedies. And then I mentioned this, and this is relatively new. The public gets to speak about an agenda item before or during consideration of the item. The council can, and y'all have, established reasonable rules for these speaking, and you cannot prohibit the public from criticizing you, including criticism of any act, omission, or policy. But you can create rules of decorum, and y'all have done that. So I'm going to briefly cover the procedural rules, which I just mentioned. They are detailed, and I believe the city secretary's office has sent them to the entire council. They're adopted by you. The current rules has the mayor being the presiding officer. It requires speakers to fill out a form. It limits public speakers to 3 minutes. And the speaker, as y'all have seen it, must approach the podium and state their name and address. They can address the council either during the public comment section or at the time of the agenda item. But if it's a public hearing, they have to address you during the public hearing. So if you have a zoning hearing and that's what they want to talk about, they can't talk about that at the public comment section. They have to talk about it as part of the public hearing. Another example of that might be your budget hearings. If somebody at that meeting wants to talk about the budget, they have to talk at the public hearing for the budget. So Texas Public Information Act, and I'm going to keep going unless y'all break in with a question, so I'm going to assume there aren't any. Again, this is about transparency. It provides that most of the documents and emails and other media that we create is subject to public disclosure upon a request. The AG is required to construe this liberally. And for the most part, if the city wants to withhold information, we have to seek permission from the Attorney General to do so. So sometimes when people seek something that is an exception, we will send it off to the Attorney General to get their blessing to withhold it. The super public information, ordinances and resolutions are super public. Other things that are subject to the Public Information Act are policies, memorandum, emails, text, instant messages, social media posts. And of course, there are exceptions, like I mentioned, like litigation or me giving legal advice. So again, what is public? Any information that is owned by the city, that the city has right of access to, that we produce, assemble, or maintain. And now the Public Information Act now creates a category for temporary custodian of information. So if you happen to use your private phone or computer for city business, it can be subject to the act, and you're considered to be a temporary custodian for that information. And again, here's the liability for failure to comply. And then I'm going to go to ethics and conflicts of interest. So I'm going to first talk about the state rules, but as you know, FATE has a code of ethics that you have adopted. So Chapter 171 is the state conflicts of interest provision. It requires you to abstain from deliberating and voting on an item if you have a substantial interest and there's a special economic interest that will result from the vote. It requires you to disclose this interest before the item, and you do that by filling out an affidavit and filing with the city secretary. And so what I would encourage you to do is, if you think you might have a conflict of interest, getting with Vicki or me or Michael well in advance of the meeting, and if you have a question, getting with us ahead of time. All of us have situations where maybe you don't realize until you're in the middle of the meeting that there might be a conflict. Feel free, we can pause and talk about it, but if we're having to make a decision about whether something's a conflict in the middle of the meeting, most likely I'm going to take the most conservative position possible. So the earlier we can talk about it, the better. Substantial interest in a business entity is you own 10% or more of the voting stock, or the funds you receive from a business entity exceed 10% of a person's gross income. So for most of us, our employers, if there's an item regarding our employer, we are going to have a substantial interest, because most of us, what we receive as salary exceeds 10% of our yearly income. A substantial interest in real estate is an equitable or legal ownership with a fair market value of $2,500, which that $2,500 used to be a consideration, but now with property values, that's like basically if you own or have an interest in any property, that's going to be a substantial interest. And then the law says that a person related to you in the first degree of consanguinity or affinity has, if they have a substantial interest, you have it. And so every time I have to look at the two charts I'm showing you, this is the affinity chart, and you can see who's in your first degree by affinity, and then consanguinity. So I'm going to give you an example of consanguinity, because a child is in the first degree of consanguinity. So let's say you have a teenage son who works at an ice cream shop in the summer, and they just work a couple months, and I mean, you know, they make a lot of money for them, but for us, that doesn't seem like a lot of money. If that son works at the ice cream shop, you look at salary going back a year. So let's say at the end of the summer, the child doesn't work at the ice cream shop anymore, and you have a zoning item concerning that ice cream shop in the fall. What you would say is, did that child have a substantial interest in the ice cream shop? Well, was 10% or more of their income come from that ice cream shop? Yeah, I mean, that was all their income for the year, right? And so you would have to abstain from a vote concerning that ice cream shop for 1 year from the time your child had that job. So just be aware of, a lot of us are very aware of when we ourselves have one, but it applies to your wife, your spouse, your husband, your daughter, your son, and other people that are in that first degree of consanguinity or affinity. And again, here are the what would happen if there's a violation. And then there's some statements that you have to make, and again, these are in the presentation, so I'm going to go through this quickly. And of course, this is one that all of us know, which is the offense of bribery. And gifts to public servants, to be aware of that as well. And then honorariums if people pay you to come speak. So I'm going to real quickly talk about FATE's ethics rules. Those were adopted in 2014. The charter now requires a code of ethics. There's nothing you need to do to make that charter provision active, but you could not repeal a code of ethics. You could certainly modify it. It provides a process for complaints, investigation, public hearing, and resolution of the complaints. For a council member, a violation could result in the council saying this complaint has no merit, a letter of notification, a letter of admonition, a letter of reprimand, or a resolution of censure or recommendation of recall. And so for other officers other than council members, it also could result in their removal from office. So most of these, and I'm not going to read through each of them, most of these really mirror what state law says, but some of them are more specific, maybe in some of the gray areas. So I'll point out to the last bullet, disclosing confidential information. So what we talk about in executive session could cause an ethics rule violation. And then finally, and again, you have a copy of this presentation, but one that is not a state law violation, but is under our code of ethics is if you're a board member of a nonprofit board and you don't get any salary from that board, if it's a board that you are a member of not because of a city appointment, you can't vote on a funding request. And so that is more strict than state law. It also clarifies that you can't participate in a zoning decision if you live within 200 feet of the zoning property. And just like the state law code of ethics issues, it requires that you file an affidavit ahead of time. So I went through that very quickly. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And obviously, if there's questions you have that you feel better asking outside of a public meeting, you're more than welcome to do so.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Oh, I had a question. Do we have a copy of this, what you just went through?
I just emailed it to you all, so if you
thank
did
you.
not, if you
Thank you.
didn't
I
receive
was-
it, let us know.
Trying to, but I couldn't write it all down. As she Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. All right, what's our next item, please?
Item 4, public comment. I do not have any public comment forms at this time. So moving on to item 5, consent agenda.
Okay. Regarding the consent agenda, does anyone on the council have any questions for staff on A, B, or C? Any questions they want answered, or, to discuss it, we would need to remove it from the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything? Okay. Then,
I move to approve the consent agenda.
okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second, okay. Please vote. Okay, passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 6A, this is an application for a zoning change request from agriculture to residential suburban density 1, case number ZR 25-003.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Ryan Wells. I'm the Director of Planning and Development Services here at the City of Fate. I'll be giving a brief staff presentation on the White Property Zoning Request, file number ZR25003. So this is what we call a straight zoning change, just a simple request to change the zoning from agriculture to residential suburban density, R1. The goal of this project, per the applicant, is to subdivide this parcel into 2 lots. The R1 zoning was requested due to the lot size constraints. The lot is about 1.88 acres in size, and so the R1 would be the necessary zoning district to allow subdivision into 2 lots from the single lot it is right now. Here's a aerial of the location. You can see it's on the north side of Greenbrier Road, somewhat near Chamberlain. This is a single lot totaling 1.878 acres. Again, it's on the north side of Greenbrier Road, approximately 460 feet west of Churchill Drive. The current zoning is agriculture, and there's a single house on there plus some accessory structures. When considering a zoning request, there are 3 approval criteria in the Fate Unified Development Ordinance that staff evaluate when looking at the application and preparing a recommendation. First is that whether the application aligns with the comprehensive plan and any other adopted plans that would apply. Second is considering the character of the surrounding neighborhood. And third, if there are any other factors required or allowed by Texas law or case law that would apply in the case. So first, as far as compatibility with the comprehensive plan, the Forward Fate Comprehensive Plan was adopted in October 2021, and it established different character areas throughout the city which have compatible zoning districts to evaluate. So in this case, the suburban neighborhood place type was the character area that was assigned for this property. The R1 zoning district is a representative zoning district, meaning that there's a direct correlation and alignment between the comprehensive plan and the proposed zoning district. Single-family residential use is also a representative use for this district. Related to the compatibility to surrounding area, the subject property is surrounded by subdivisions and large lot residential properties. To the north is vacant land and floodplain. As you may recall, there was a recent zoning change that was requested for property immediately to the north and east. That applicant is going to be resubmitting under a different zoning premise shortly, and so that may be subject to a zoning change request soon. To the east is some large lot residential use. To the south is the Chamberlain Crossing neighborhood, and to the west is additional large lot residential use. So this being a nearly 2-acre property, requesting a subdivision into 2 nearly 1-acre lots. This will be compatible with those surrounding uses. And then finally, any other factors required or allowed by Texas law or case law do not significantly apply here. So all 3 of these criteria are met. With all zoning cases, we publish a public notice in the local newspaper, as well as mail notices to all properties within 200 feet of the subject property. In this case, that resulted in 19 mailed notices being sent. We did receive 1 response, a written response to this mailing as of this morning. It was against the proposed zoning change. The concerns expressed in this letter were that the change in zoning and subsequent development would create traffic concerns due to a limited entry and exit onto Greenbrier, and that there would be insufficient infrastructure in the respondent's opinion to serve the subdivision of the property. In most cases, when we do a zoning change, we conduct a fiscal analysis, but given the very minor impact that this property has, we chose to forego that just for the sake of brevity. The Planning and Zoning Commission last month considered this case, and in a unanimous 5-0 vote with 2 absent, they recommend approval of the zoning change. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions now or after public comment.
Okay, questions?
Just a quick question, Ryan, with the R1 designation, that is a minimum, the plan
10,000
is to
square feet.
divide this into 2 lots, but this is a minimum of 10,000 square feet, maximum of 1 acre. So,
Yes, sir.
so the smallest lot they could plat out would be 10,000 square
Would be
feet.
10,000 square feet, that's right.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm pretty close to 200 feet from this. Do we know that,
Did you receive a mailed notice?
not that I recall,
Then you're outside of that 200-foot radius, yeah.
just confirming.
Yes, sir.
I noticed it looks like there's a septic tank on this other property. Does that leave the property that's there existing with enough space for the septic system?
So this isn't actually the plat application, so they would develop a minor plat application that would need to provide sufficient size for the septic leach field, or for the septic spray field, most likely, and setbacks from all of the existing buildings. So that would be determined during that platting process.
So even for the existing property that's there? So the existing property lists it has a septic system. If they carve out this piece of property, is that going to be an issue with the amount of property needed for this person that already has the septic field?
That would be determined by the platting process
Okay.
and the TCEQ permitting process. That's not something that we evaluated at this early stage. So in theory, even if they rezoned it to R1, if they weren't able to functionally carve out a second lot, they wouldn't be able to do it. The zoning would still apply, but there are other factors at play in the feasibility of the development.
Any other questions? Cody?
Do we know why they're requesting this change from ag to suburban?
Based on their application, they stated they wanted to subdivide it into 2 lots. So it would be the existing home on a smaller lot and then a flag lot behind it. The applicant is here, so if you wanted to ask them directly, they'd be able to answer that question.
Sure.
Okay?
Any other questions?
I was just curious, we can't tell from what I saw in the attachments about the approximate width of the lot as it is, and then the width of the lot that'll be in the front after, or that may be after it's platted.
Yeah, well, we would make sure that the subdivision resulted in lot widths that met the R1 zoning standards. I could pull those up. Honestly, I don't have that number right in front of me. But we would hold them to those requirements. Yes, sir. And that actually would be a limiting factor in the ability to subdivide it beyond 2 lots, because it is a long, skinny lot. And so there's a width kind of constraint as far as being able to subdivide it multiple times.
Other questions? Okay. So for the applicant presentation.
Yeah, he doesn't have a presentation,
Oh, okay.
but given that there was a question that's better directed to him, I'll invite him to come up.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. White?
Welcome.
Paul White on 905 Greenbrier.
My question was, what was the purpose? What are your interests in changing it from agriculture to suburban? That was all.
Basically, we don't need the property, the back property, and the requirement, like I said, is, as he stated, as far as the square footage goes, so that's why we're basically wanting to just be able to split it, so we'll be able to sell. With its own agriculture, you can't sell it.
Right.
So that's the only reason the request. And then we can confirm, but as far as, I believe it's roughly 120 feet. Requirement is 40 foot. As far as the entrance goes, entrance to the flagged lot, which will be in the back, it's a real long rectangle. So it's approximately between 112 and 20 feet, I believe. And it's pretty much a rectangle. So it'll be a flagged, so they'll have a 40 foot, as what we had drawn up would be a 40-foot entrance on the street coming in, and then it will carry back and flag over, so they'll have the entire back of the property.
Okay, works for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll come to the public hearing portion, so we'll open that up at 6:40. Do I have anyone that would like to speak on this zoning issue?
No, Mayor, we do not have any comments at this time.
Okay, well then let's close the public hearing section at 6:40. And any other discussions?
I have one more question. I noticed R1 also has the ability to zone for multifamily, so my question would be, this is another by right issue, correct? So once it's
It says R1?
R1, when you had the little residential R1, it looked like it said multifamily on there as well. Can you go back to that slide?
Right here?
Yes.
Okay, so this is actually an excerpt from the, sorry, hold on a second. This is an excerpt from the comprehensive plan. It's not an excerpt from the zoning code. I can tell you with 100% confidence that the R1 zoning district absolutely does not permit multifamily residential development.
Okay, all right, I saw this on here, wanted to get clarification.
Yeah, this is the suburban neighborhood, which encompasses a large swath of the city that's residential in character, but then it gets more granular with the zoning districts.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion, consideration, questions to ask? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the zoning change for a 1.7 acre property currently zoned as agriculture.
Second.
Okay, do I have a second? A second? All right, we can begin. Any other discussion? All right, we can vote. Okay, there we go. Okay, passes 7-0. Thank you. What's our next item, please?
Item 6B, this is an application for approval of a zoning change request from agriculture to residential estate to allow for one new single-family home, case number ZR-25-004.
All right, so we have a series of straight zoning cases tonight, which is actually a little bit unusual. So this is the second of three. This is the Juan M. Salas property zoning request. This is file number ZR-25004. Once again, this is a straight zoning change request from agricultural to residential estate. The goal here is that the applicant wishes to construct a single-family home on their property. Now, there's an existing modular home on the property, but they want to replace it with a stick-built single-family home. Our code requires that any properties that are developed need to be platted, meaning they have to go through the formal platting process, record the plat with the county clerk's office. And so in this case, the property isn't platted, and so in order to plat it, you have to rezone it first. It's kind of like a successional step here. So this is also to correct a historical, basically unpermitted or not necessarily illegal, but maybe it was illegal subdivision. What happened was, before this whole neighborhood was annexed into the city many years ago, the disposition of the property was exchanged through what's called meets and bounds. So instead of doing a plat to formally subdivide the property, they would just take a big piece of property and sell a part of that property with a survey to another party, but not actually legally subdivide the parcel. This entire North Star neighborhood was created that way, and so this is a repeat issue that we have been finding. And in each case, the property owner will need to rezone the property, plat the property before they can develop the property, because none of these are actual legal lots of record. So that's what we're facing here. We've been working with the applicant to kind of guide him through the steps. Once again, the zoning is agriculture, and the residential estate zoning is requested due to the lot size constraints. It's 1.25 acres, and the residential estate zoning is 1 acre minimum. So that's compatible with their existing property configuration. Here's an aerial of the location. You can see it's kind of it's on the north side of town, just off of County Road 979. It's a single lot totaling 1.25 acres. It's on the southwest corner of North Star Road and County Road 979. Zoned agriculture and has a modular home, plus some accessory structures. The three criteria that we discussed before will apply here, and I'll go over quickly the compatibility with those. First off, this whole northern part of Fate is classified with the rural reserve place type from the comprehensive plan. Residential estate, it was cited as rural estate in the comp plan, but its residential estate is a representative zoning district, and single-family residential use is a compatible land use. Surrounding this subject property is a lot of the same. Rural properties, large lot residential, generally within 1.25 to 2.5 acres in size, along North Star Road and County Road 979. And there are no other factors required or allowed by Texas law or case law that are really applicable here. Once again, we sent out public notices, not only to the newspaper, but to all property owners within 200 feet, and received 0 responses as of this morning, either for or against this zoning request. Again, because this is really just a reconfiguration of the single property, we didn't do a fiscal analysis, so we moving beyond that item. At their Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on the 15th of May, the commission unanimously recommended approval of this 5-0 with 2 absent. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? None? All right. Applicant,
The applicant is here. I don't believe they have a presentation, but they'd be available to answer questions.
any questions for the applicant directly from up here? Okay. Do we have any people that wish to speak on this?
We do not, so we can just open it for the record
Okay,
and close
so
it.
yes, we'll officially open it at 6:46. As seeing as there are no individuals who wish to speak on it, we'll close it at 6:47. My time did bump up, so it'll seem like when we review these minutes that something happened for that minute there. So we'll officially close that at 6:47. Any other thoughts, council, on discussion, or do I have a motion?
Ryan, I'm sorry, quick question I should have asked on this, and I just remember seeing this in P&Z a couple of times when I served there. Since this is same use, are we having to go through why are we going through the zoning process? Because it's zoned ag, it's not changing use. So is it because the footprint of what they're wanting to build is significantly different?
Yeah,
What's the reason there? Because
Agriculture has a 5-acre minimum lot size, and when they need to plat the property, they're going to be platting it as a 1.25-acre lot. And so that's incompatible with the 5-acre minimum lot size. So to rezone it to residential estate is a minimum 1-acre lot size, and so that creates a compatible zoning standard for the proposed plat that will be coming.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept the zoning change number 0-2025-020.
I second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, let's vote. Okay, motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Okay, next item, please.
Item 6C, this is an application for a zoning change request from agriculture to general commercial to allow for retail development, case number ZR-25-005.
All right, so this is our third zoning request tonight. We've been busy over in the planning department. This is the Fate Central Commercial Mid-Retail Zoning Request, project ID ZR-25005. So this is a little different than what you saw in the last two items. This is actually a zoning change request from agriculture to general commercial to support commercial development in Fate. This is an 11.6-acre project area, which actually covers portions of 3 different parcels. The parcel configuration out here is a little bit, historical, and so the reconfiguration of the properties to support the scale of development that's kind of growing on the south side of I-30 tends to cross those historical lot lines, which are corrected subsequently with the platting of the properties later on. So again, the reason for this request is to prepare this property for future commercial development, allow for marketing, and per the applicant, the exact users and lot configurations in this 11.6 acres is to be determined, which has been the historical pattern with this property owner. So again, here's an aerial showing the general location. You can see it's on the west side of Water Tower Road, on the other side from Fate Village. So again, a portion of 3 lots. Total of the lots is approximately 51 acres, but subject to the zoning request tonight is about 11.6 between Greenbrier Road and Fate Village Drive, approximately 250 feet south of the eastbound I-30 frontage road, just south of that strip of commercial development that's currently underway, including the Whataburger. It's currently zoned agriculture. Almost half of the city of Fate is zoned agriculture, so that's a common occurrence, and it's currently all vacant. The same 3 criteria for a straight zoning request, again, were considered by the staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission. First off, the compatibility with the comprehensive plan and other adopted plans. So in this case, in the area around Fate Village and on the south side of I-30, there are 2 character areas that were basically established in the comprehensive plan for this property. They included mixed-use center and supportive commercial. For the mixed-use center, which is kind of the western portion of the subject property, we found there was compatibility in that some of the compatible land uses were included general retail, which is generally what we're going to be finding in this general commercial zone. And then the support of commercial explicitly identifies what used to be called highway commercial, which we renamed general commercial in January 2023, as a representative zoning district. And of course, general retail and restaurants are land use types that work within that. So overall, there's a direct compatibility with the comprehensive plan land use assignments and the requested general commercial zoning change. As far as the character of the surrounding neighborhood, again, you can see that it's on the south side of 30, south of the strip of commercial development, which includes a number of familiar names that are either in review, under construction, or otherwise contemplated. As we move out away from the immediately adjacent retail and other commercial uses, we're starting to get into some higher density residential uses, such as the 2 apartment complexes to the south and entitled townhomes around the roundabout, which we're going to be seeing come in here relatively shortly. And then further out, beyond that buffer of higher density residential uses, we have our traditional neighborhoods of Williamsburg, Chamberlain Crossing, Reserve, and whatnot. So again, we're immediately adjacent to kind of higher intensity commercial uses, and then moving away in something of a stratum toward the residential uses further away. And then again, the final criterion of Texas law and case law don't have any specific application here. So all 3 of the criteria staff found were met. Public notices were sent out. In this case, because we had 51 acres of the original parcels being affected, we actually went out 200 feet from the original parcels and not just the affected area, which meant that we were reaching all the way down into Williamsburg with some of the mailed notices. Nonetheless, we did have 59 mailed notices go out, and as of this morning, we didn't have any written responses for or against the requested zoning change. So in this case, we did run a fiscal analysis, and for some of you who are newer on the council, this is a little bit of a new concept and something that I'd be happy to expand upon at the appropriate time. Nevertheless, because at the time we received the zoning request, we didn't have any specifics on uses, users, or lot configuration, we decided to use a proxy of the Fate Village development, which is immediately on the other side of Fate Village Drive, and which we expected would probably be a close representation of what we're 11.6 acre property. So we used the same general development build-out pattern, market values that we knew were recent and locally appropriate, and then look at sales tax generating proportion of the development to figure out basically what the metrics and performance would likely be for this general commercial zone property. So all told, again, this is an exhibit in your packet, as well as information that we post on our website as far as the methodology for this fiscal analysis. All told, we could see that a year 1 contribution at build-out could result in about $402,000 revenue to the city through property and sales taxes. Total public road replacement costs in the form of Greenbrier Road and Fate Village Drive would be about $250,000. The proportionate cost of the general administrative and public safety general fund services that would be provided to this property would be about $40,000. Annual net revenue, when taking into account the depreciation of the local road system, would be about $355,000. Over 40 years, that would be about $14.22 million. The revenue to cost ratio with roads considered is about 8.61 to 1, which means, in short, for every dollar the city would spend to serve this property, we would estimate that we'd receive about $8.60 in revenue from property and sales taxes. The private to public ratio, which means the value of all the public investments, private investments to public liabilities, is about 165 to 1, which is a very strong metric of productivity. And finally, the years to repay the public liabilities would be about 3.1 years. The Planning and Zoning Commission last month considered this item and unanimously recommended approval, 5-0 with 2 absent. The applicant is here, and generally they do provide some additional remarks, so I would invite them to do that, but I'm happy to take any questions now if you have those.
Questions from council? Okay.
Thank you. Do you want me to do a presentation here? Good evening, Matt Johnson, 2101 Cedar Springs Road, Dallas, Texas. I'm an owner's representative for Petro Hunt. We're the property owners for the Fate I-30 Commercial LP entity that is the property owner of this land. Mayor Greenberg, Councilmember Manival, and Councilmember Huffman, congratulations on your recent election. I look forward to working with you guys in the future, and the rest of the council, I look forward to presenting to you guys here tonight. Thank you for taking the time to hear this. All right, Ryan always does a great job of covering it, so thank you, Ryan, for being so well prepared and providing that thorough explanation of the property in question. A couple things I wanted to highlight on our side. Since we're planning to develop this as a retail property, and work with other retail developers and retail groups on it. One of the things we tried to do is set up the depths and the boundaries in alignment with a contemplated retail use. So the way the boundaries have set here, they align really closely with where Fate Village was set up, and that ties to how retailers and other groups and commercial users like to see their parking fields, and how then their customers can access the property and the visibility that those setbacks create. So the alignment was based on and contemplates a retail commercial use. I did want to provide, I will say this is a concept plan, very conceptual plan, but I think it goes to show a lot of the positive attributes that this property has for a retail development. A lot of things that retailers are looking for. The main attributes are going to be visibility, access, parking, and signage. And so the concept plan tries to highlight those for those users. And I'll say Ryan's evaluation of 101,000 square feet was very close to the conceptual plan that we were able to put on the property of 97,000 square feet based on kind of industry standards for retail users that would be in a concept plan like this between junior box tenants as well as small shop tenants. I did want to provide, I've got a better exhibit of this actually, I want to provide. So regional development exhibit, just wanted to highlight a number of the properties in this area have been developed by us over the last 10 or 15 years, starting with Brookshire's Fresh, as well as Fate Village in partnership with some groups that we've worked with repeatedly, and a number of the residential pieces that were highlighted, and a number of commercial developments that are developing there along 551, as well as the townhomes that are in process. We think this location here, with the visibility and access to the highway frontage, will provide the retail end users a really unique experience here for the customers to be able to get in and out easily and access and provide a good amount of accessibility to those customers. So, and one thing I wanted to highlight, because I know in new developments there can be a concern for traffic, but when we built these roads through our property, we did a traffic impact analysis across our whole southwest quadrant. So this property south of 30, west of Memorial, we tried to put a plan in place as we were building those roads to accommodate a traffic intensity expected from a retail development. So our traffic impact analysis plan contemplated this site being a retail use, and we built the roads adjacent to it accordingly to that type of use. And I will say when we put those roads in, we did plan accordingly for the other infrastructure and utilities as well. So sanitary sewer, storm, sewer, water, all
ready to go for a development-ready site of this nature, as well as detention. And we have our engineer here too as well, if there's any more technical questions that you would like to get into. And that's all I had for just kind of a brief overview, but I'm happy to answer any more specific questions you might have.
Questions from up here?
First side, the zoning obviously seems appropriate for where it is, and you guys have done a great job with that development all through there. My only curiosity is, this is 40 acres, I believe, total. You've got 63 acres just to the south of that, that borders Greenbrier Road that's remaining unzoned. Why are we not addressing it all at one time? Are you trying to leave your options open for that piece of property?
Yeah, I think we've tried to always, as we've worked in fate, we've owned this property since 2003, right? And so we've tried to be thoughtful in how we planned it over time to make sure that the uses that we're planning are in alignment with where fate is as a community and their growth pattern, and it makes sense for the adjacent uses. With the demand that we have right now, we think this project of this magnitude is what's appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. You're highlighting it right now as all retail, but the general commercial, my understanding is it could be mixed use? I mean, that allows for mixed use? No. General commercial doesn't allow for mixed use.
Off the top of my head, it allows for vertical mixed use, but that's a very kind of geographically specific type of development. It doesn't allow for any multifamily without a specific use permit. So general retail, commercial, some minor auto-oriented uses, but yeah, that's basically what the general commercial zoning district is geared toward.
Okay. So right now you're only planning on retail?
We're planning retail commercial. We're not planning multifamily, if that's the question. I believe, and Ryan can confirm this or staff, but any multifamily use would require a special use permit, and we'd have to come back in front of you again. So we aren't saying anything. We are not doing multifamily. You guys brought up multifamily. We did not.
About how many stores are you looking to put in there? Is there a?
It'll depend on a co-tenancy plan, right? But across 97,000 square feet, you know, between junior box anchors that we're hoping to target, to try to obtain. Sorry, I got to clarify that. I said, like, we're working towards obtaining, you know, junior box tenants. Oftentimes those are in that 15 to 35,000 square foot range. So depending on the number of those that are part of it, and then filling in some additional small shop space for other use types that would be make up a co-tenancy for the development.
Good, thank
you. So it's hard to say at this stage, but it depends, is I think a fair answer at this point.
Is there a maximum or a number or a minimum?
You know, these retailers are going to be hyper sensitive to the parking ratios. And so the rules of thumb, this is generally like optimize. I won't say maximize. I'm going to say optimize for this parcel that we're requesting to be able to achieve square footage as well as the parking counts that a number of different uses are going to need across a development of this type to be able to service their customers appropriately in this setting.
Perfect. Thank you.
I have a question. Can you give us an example of a junior box store? I see like there's a 35,000, there's a 28,000, just
I think
so we can kind of get an idea of what that looks like.
Different single category retailers, right? So it could be apparel, it could be soft goods, fitness often qualifies of the large fitness user types. I think are ones that would be qualified as a junior box.
So like a Planet Fitness, or is that a little bit bigger?
It could be. You're saying specific names,
well,
but it could be.
I'm kind of just trying
EOS,
to get an idea of the size.
It could be LA Fitness. It could be 24-hour fitness, right? But if you're thinking of a larger fitness location, yes, it would probably qualify. If it's a smaller user like maybe Entertain Fitness, that's 5,000 square feet.
Gotcha. That's very helpful. Thank you.
But I'm not we're at a point where we're
Right.
trying to get zoning so that we
We
can
understand.
go put
Sure.
together a leasing plan with the market.
No, and I
versus-
appreciate that question because I look at 28,500 square feet, my mind doesn't immediately conceptualize a specific store or a kind of
I kind of
size with that.
anticipated this question, so a lot of beauty and wellness, single category retailers might fit that mold.
Okay.
A lot of them you would think you were in the trade area of Rockwall, so many of them may already be existing, but there's also, as your guys are growing, there's a number of locations where now you reach the metrics of their trade area. So, and there's a lot of new concepts coming on the market all the time. So.
Okay, great. Other questions?
My only concern is that by not having any clue what's going here is we're also don't have any clue if it's going to be tax generating. So if it's just donut stores and daycares and that sort of thing, then we have a bunch of acreage of nothing that brings tax other than property tax into the city. So
Yeah, I mean, we've set the depths in accordance with what a concept plan and retail development of this type would generate, right? I think it's a continuation of the development type that has been built out in process. Certainly, could there be some that, check the box of exempt from sales tax? Potentially, but overwhelmingly, that's not going to be the case, and that's certainly not in the junior box department where you're looking at straight retail, general retail sales.
All right, thanks.
Another example of junior box might be hardware, home improvement. There's a number of categories that overwhelmingly fit in sales tax generation.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll open up at 7:08, the public hearing. Anybody want to make a comment? Or I guess I should say, do we have anybody who wants to make a comment on
I
this?
do not, Mayor, not at this time.
All right, then we'll close the public hearing at 7:08. Excuse me. Okay, any last discussion by council? Thoughts, comments, things to consider?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve case number ZR 25005.
A second.
Okay, it has been, we have a motion, it's been seconded. We can begin voting, please. All right, passes 7-0, thank you. Okay, next item, please.
Item 7, Mayor, Council, and City Manager reports.
Okay. Cody, you want to begin tonight?
I just wanted to say congratulations to the two people that we honored earlier. I think it was Abby and Luke. Awesome job, y'all.
I would also like to echo my congratulations to Luke, Stacy, and Abby Walker, and that all the graduates of Royce City and Rockwall that got out recently, congratulations to you guys as well.
Same congrats to Luke Stacy and to Abby Walker on their achievements. Both pretty impressive. As the guy who ran track in high school and had kids that run track, I know the 800 meters, the hardest race there is in track, so it's pretty impressive to do that well in it. Also want to commend the staff that responded very quickly after the storms at the Fate Food Hall a couple of weeks ago, and getting that cleaned up so they could be up and operational for business later that day.
Well, I guess I'll say I'm equally impressed with those two young people. They've done a great job. Eagle Scout looks like not an easy thing to get, and so congratulations. And I also just wanted to thank some of the city staff that's been helpful to me last couple of weeks. Raju spent plenty of time with me answering questions, and city manager has made himself available for lots of time. So thank you.
I'd also like to congratulate Luke Stacy and, of course, his parents, John Stacy. And I actually watched his family kind of float out of here with pride, and that makes me happy. And Abby Walker for an incredible feat, because you guys would not want to see me run track, because I would be in traction afterwards. So, but I wanted to thank Jennifer also for the open meetings training on that. So, also I'd like to thank Rick and Martha for doing Carry the Load with me. It was pretty awesome out there. I actually walked it, and nobody needed to pull out an AED to revive me. So no hospital trips on that. But I did get to talk to some people out there and got high praise for our chief of police from Sheriff Garrett. He says how fortunate we are, and I never want to let our DPS go by without thanking them for everything that they do. It's just a great team. It's second to none. But thank you all.
Well, by the time you get to me, a lot of times it's some of the same stuff you've already heard, but really, congratulations to Luke. As a mother of an Eagle Scout and member of the Order of the Arrow, I'm very enthusiastic about scouting, so it's fun to have a proclamation for a scout up here. And to Abby, gosh, that's really fun for her to be the first of the students at her school to achieve that level, so that's great. And yes, thank you to Raju and Mr. Kovacs for your time this week. It was really helpful for me, and it was very enjoyable doing the Carry the Load last weekend.
I left one little thing out. Thank you to the staff for putting up the food hall signs. I'm getting nothing but compliments online on the food hall signs. They go, now we know where the food hall is and we know where to point. So thank you for that.
Well, and thank you for taking the one thing that I had left that I could have said that was new, but you know what? That's okay. I do want to echo the sentiments. It's great to see young people doing such amazing things, and here in Fate, it's so awesome to get to celebrate that in our community. It's an absolute blast to do. I will say, too, about the food hall, I had an opportunity to go to It's Grub 30 for lunch on Friday for a ribbon cutting there. And I will say, with the signs coming in, that's just a really cool place. So I encourage everybody to go check that out for lunch or dinner. I know it's hot, but it's also a great way to show support for our own community. So get out there and have a burger with Philly cheesesteak on top of it as well. You only live once, right? So that's my mayor's report. Mr. Kovacs.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Just a couple things. The Parks Board will meet tomorrow here at City Hall at 6 p.m. And then Tuesday, June 10th, we have a likely MDD meeting. We'll see. We might have an MDD meeting. So MDD has been active lately, so if it does meet June 10th, City Hall, 6 p.m. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
Item 8A, and we are going into executive session in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.001. The City Council will recess into executive session, closed meeting to discuss the following. A, in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.072, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. 1, to consider the purchase of property for the North Fire Station, which is located at 194 Tony Lane, Fate, Texas 75087, and 2, to consider the purchase of Blackland Water Supply Corporation property located on North Bend Payne Road, and B, in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorney on matter in which the duty of the attorney to the conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meetings Act regarding 1, Senate Bill 2038 of the 88th Legislative Session, and petitions for release from the extraterritorial jurisdiction, including litigation and potential litigation, and 2, Wood Creek Development Agreements.
Okay, thank you. Oh, okay, we'll go into, to vote on that? Oh, just to, yeah, okay, we're going into executive session now, thank you.
Normally, you say the time we're going in.
At 7:15, we will go into executive session. Thank you. All right, we are reconvening into regular session at 8:41 PM. No action was taken in executive session. And so what is our next item, please?
Item 10A, consider approval of resolution number R 2025-035, approving the purchase of an approximate 2.498 acre tract of land, property ID number 18804.
Okay, do I have a motion on this item?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number R-2025-035.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Please vote. It is 7-0, the motion passes. Thank you. What's our next item, please?
Item 11, adjournment.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll put a motion to adjourn.
And we have a second. Let's vote, please. All right, it passes 7-0. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
I was trying to second that really fast.